Children, welcome to Chapter 2 of The Adventures of Zara the Paddington Poodle Brahmin Bull Encounter. We have here with us today Ziggy again, but I suspect Ziggy's going to go to sleep while we're reading. It's been a big day for Ziggy. Okay, moving on to Chapter 2. So if we remember in Chapter 1, Zara and Ziggy had gone to bed after their big dinner. "Mayday, mayday, mayday," screamed the pilot, as the helicopter suddenly dropped out of the sky and spiralled out of control. Zara was instantly thrown out through the door and was dangling precariously by his safety harness as they hurtled to the canyon below. "Watch out, we're going to crash," screamed Ziggy, covering his eyes with his front paws. But all Zara could hear was the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh sound coming from the helicopter blades, and just as they were about to hit the ground, he found himself sitting bolt upright in a cold sweat, his heart pounding like a hammer in his chest. So here we have Zara and Ziggy in the helicopter. This is the lost city, and they're in a helicopter. Mind you, remember, he's dreaming. He found himself in a cold sweat and his heart pounding in his chest. He realised he had been dreaming and wiped the sweat from his brow. Phew! Tuning his ears to the outside, he could hear a chorus of cicadas singing there and harmonising the last verse of their operatic overture before calling a night. He cozied himself back into bed and was just about to slip into a light sleep when the shrill cry for help cut the eerie silence, jolting Zara onto all fours. A cold shiver ran up his spine and he shuddered both in apprehension and anticipation at the thought of what lay outside. He was just about to wake his little brother Ziggy when another cry for help that sounded just like Ziggy made his ears prick up, and without hesitating he bolted out the door and to the rescue, screaming, "I'm coming, Ziggy!" Scanning the darkness for his little brother, he braced himself for the worst and couldn't believe his eyes when he finally spotted Ziggy and the dad, wearing only his pyjamas, standing in the middle of the campsite surrounded by a herd of bulls that looked like they were on steroids. "It's about time, I thought you'd never wake up," yelped Ziggy, peering through the bull's hairy legs. "What on earth have you gotten yourselves into?" Zara squawked, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, so he just stood there gawking at them. "Pull yourself together and round up these smelly beef," barked Ziggy, who was way past caring if he offended the gigantic bulls. "Now just how do you propose I do that?" he asked, eyeing the oversized creatures. "It's not something either one of us has done before, you know. After all, there are no four-legged bulls in the city." Born and bred in the inner city suburb of Paddington, Sydney, Australia, Zara and Ziggy had never been up close and personal with a bull before this moment. In fact, they had only ever seen them in the distance as they drove through the country or on television, and Zara was stumped as to what he was supposed to do. "Listen here, you pompous, pampered pooch, this is meant to be instinctive," Ziggy said, rolling his eyes in frustration. "Oh, really? Well, you do it then, because it appears that I wasn't born with those kind of instincts," Zara said as Ziggy scowled at him in disbelief. "Quit glaring at me, I'll give it a go," he grunted, turning his attention to the leader of the herd, but all he could see was the beast's enormous rump staring back at him. "Excuse me, Mr. Bull, will you please let my family go?" Zara asked in a well-mannered voice, grateful for the darkness so no one could see that his legs were wobbling around like raspberry jelly. The big bull quickly spun around and burst into laughter at the sight of the lightweight poodle. With muscles on his muscles and standing not less than 1.8 metres tall at the shoulder, the enormous bull was a slick Brahmin, or drought master as they like to call it in the top end. The prize of the herd, he was bred to withstand the harsh, arid outback conditions, and would certainly be able to flick Zara away with the tosses of his mighty horns, like he was an annoying insect. "Excuse me?" replied the oversized bull, his eyes boring holes into Zara's beautifully coiffed coat. "Well, that wasn't so bad. At least I got his attention. Really, how hard can this instinct thing be anyway? Tsar chuckled quietly to himself. Yes, hand them over, Tsar said, stomping his foot and fearlessly glaring at the big bull. Just who do you think you are, dishing out orders like that? This drew a chuckle from the other bulls, who had left Ziggy and the dad and made a tight-knit circle around Tsar. A little of Tsar's bravery escaped him as he watched the big bull's enormous nostrils blow steam into the cool night air. Aegon woke when he heard Ziggy's plea for help and leapt to his feet, snapping open his frill and puffing himself up in full dragon armour. Spotting his friend Ginger and Moongar, a pair of black-footed tree rats, perched on their arbour loft watching the commotion below, he edged his way along and to join them. Guys, what's going on? He asked, settling himself in the prime position next to his friends. Well, it looks like Ranger's at it again, said Ginger, handing Moongar a piece of fruit, Pandana's fruit. I bet you he scares the... Oh, Ziggy's off. Goodbye, Ziggy. He'll come back, ladies and gentlemen. I bet you he scares them nice folks away, Aegon replied. You go board and put that bully bull in its place, said Ginger, peeling the skin from his piece of fruit. Now let's have a look at Ginger, Moongar and Aegon. So there we have Ginger, Moongar and Aegon, and of course Tsar and Ranger going head to head. Say, Moongar, do you know what they are? Aegon asked, pointing to Tsar and Ziggy. Well, if my recollection serves me right, I think they're poodles. You know, some type of fancy city dog, he replied, with little interest in anything other than the tiny piece of fruit in his paws. A poodle? They're beautiful, aren't they? Oh, sure, if you say so, replied Moongar, popping the piece of fruit into his mouth. Ziggy spotted the little frilled-necked lizard and the black-footed tree rats enjoying the spectacle below. He hadn't seen these type of creatures before and couldn't help admire them. The tree rats with their long, pointy ears, little black feet, and long tails that ended in white tufts of fur, as if they'd been dipped in white paint. He would normally be able to meet them, but it was too preoccupied with Tsar and the bull to introduce himself. The standoff was way too much for Aegon, who quickly slid down the trunk of the tree and squeezed himself past the hairy bulls, but legs to go to Tsar's aid. Turning his attention back to Tsar, Ziggy was just in time to see Aegon in full, menacing dragon armour proudly standing next to Tsar. Ginger and Moongar also choked on their piece of fruit when they saw the little lizard in the middle of the commotion. I'm Aegon, he said excitedly, twirling around to show off his beautiful coloured frill. He was about 50 centimetres from the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail, and when he was on all fours, he only came up to the top of Tsar's ankles. I'm here to help you, he said, rearing onto his back legs to give himself some height. Despite his Tsar, Aegon looked the part of a menacing, albeit miniature dragon. So let's have a look at Aegon and Tsar. So here's Aegon and Tsar. Of course, Aegon's coming to help Tsar baby. Nice to meet you, Aegon. I'm Tsar. Oh, this is so exciting, squealed the little lizard, peering up at the gigantic bulls, raking the ground with their enormous hooves. Listen, Aegon, things are really starting to heat up, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to protect you, so please go back to where you came